Hey Bookaholics, and welcome back to another reading vlog. For today's reading vlog, we're going to be going through some Regency romances. With Bridgerton on the horizon, I am just feeling the need to read some Regency romances, so that's exactly what we're going to do today. I have 3 that I would like to try. They're all from new to me authors, so this isn't me going to be reading Bridgerton, this isn't me going to be reading authors that I've read in the past, this is me trying out some more authors because I'm running out of Tessa Dare books quite quickly and I'd like to have another author in the wings should I need to. So we've got 3 today. The first one is A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, I think it's called, by Amanda Collins. We've got A Tale of Two Dukes by Emma Orchard, and we've also got Secrets of a Summer Night by Lisa Kleypas. And these are all, again, very well regarded authors within the genre as well, which are reasons that I wanted to get to them, because the genre seems to know what it's talking about. You know, it seems to know which are the addictive books to get to. Who am I to complain? Now, I've got the 3 of them here and ready, and I didn't know which one to start with, so I did a quick little spinner wheel. The Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, she's holding an umbrella in the cover, so I have put an umbrella on the wheel. Then we've got A Tale of Two Dukes. I've got just 2 men on there. Seem like a reasonable one. And then I've got a rose for the Lisa Kleypas one because she's holding a rose in the cover of the book, at least the edition that I have. So we're going to go spin that, and I ended up with A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem. So we're going to be starting with that one. I'm not going to be talking about these books before I start them. I'm going to get 100 pages in and then I'll chat about the book. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to go pick that one up now, and then once I am a little ways in, I'll be able to give you a better idea. I think instead of reading the summaries out to you, it's just better if I start reading it and then we chat about it. But yeah, those are the 3 books that I'm hoping to read for this vlog. Regency romances tend to take me a maximum of 2 days to read, so I've got plenty of time before the month is out to get to this, and I'm really excited for these. I think I'm just in the right headspace to be reading some cheesy, fun romance. Only problem being if I get super addicted to one and then just want to keep reading more by that author instead of reading the ones that I've allocated for this vlog. That is the only possible issue with this vlog. So we'll see how I fare with it, but I am excited to give it a try. Alright vlog, I'm here to check in because I have now started A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins. This one is a murder mystery-esque Victorian story. It's not Regency. I found it on a Regency list. I am just saying, people. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't. If it was just like a random courtly romance, I don't care. I'm gonna do an entire video on this rant at some point, but people like to see me screaming about historical inaccuracies or mislabelings. So here's the rant that you guys are so flippin' used to me saying right now. In this one, we are following a woman who is a reporter, and someone put this fucking book on a Regency list. Once again, my appeal is not that you should know your history. It is if you are going to label something in a very specific time period. They didn't put period romance. This is on a Regency list. This is on a Regency romance list. Do you have any idea how damaging that is to the way that women perceive history? The way that women are depicted in history? If you're going to pick up a Regency romance where women have no rights, literally no rights at all, and you're going to take a book in which the woman is a journalist, she works for a newspaper because it is mid-Victorian era, where the beginnings of the suffragette movement are starting to happen, where women are able now to enroll in Oxford and Cambridge, granted in separate schools, in women's schools that were definitely not held to the same prestige and do not really validate those women's anything until well into the Edwardian era. But women were allowed to attend those schools. Women were allowed to do these things. They were allowed to write. Jane fucking Austen, you know, the world famous Jane Austen, did not write under her own name. I want you to understand, she literally said, by a lady, right? It is anonymously published until after her death. Right, when she dies, her family had to let people know she was dead so people didn't start pretending they were her. It was when she died, they finally said that she was the author. In her lifetime, she remained anonymous because it was so difficult for women to write during that time period. Anne Radcliffe had a horrible time of being a writer during that time period. Do you think there were women columnists writing under their own name on things like murder, like there is in this novel? It's not a thing. So when you're going to compare the two, when you put this book book on a Regency list, then women are going to read things like Tessa Dare, for example, and be like, well, why are these women like this, but these women are like this? And it's like, because there's a 60-year difference. You tell me that your experiences within the job market, within employment, within romance, within relationships, within how society functions is the same as your grandma's. We're talking, the characters from Jane Austen's novels are at least grandparent age to the characters in Victorian romances. It's apples and oranges. And I'm sorry, but this annoys me. My memory got full. But the women who started these kinds of movements, women like Jane Austen and Anne Radcliffe, who started being a voice for women when women had none, is the reason why then the following generation presents people like Ada Lovelace, right? Which in turn then produces women being able to go to Oxford and Cambridge, which in turn produces women who are able to do things like write a column. But you cannot compare the existence of these two women's lives. And therefore it always angers me when you see what is clearly a Victorian story labelled as Regency. The other way around as well, but more so the other way, because then it gives people the idea of like, well, why can this woman be a columnist while you're reading Sense and Sensibility, and the best these women can hope for is to marry someone who is bearable to them, who's tolerable to them. And even then, like, you can talk about the wealth disparities, because obviously most of the time we're talking about upper classes anyway, but the distinction is still there and it's important. Rant over. I do this every time I do a Regency vlog. I'm going to do a video on it. Bear with me. I'm liking the book, which is the important part. This one, I mean, like, I'm not loving it. It's fun. It's a murder mystery-esque one. We are following our protagonist, Catherine. This is in 1865, not Regency. 1865, and we are following this lady who is a columnist. She specifically begins to write about notorious criminals in her paper, which gives her a level of notoriety herself as well, because of like the time period. It's not things that ladies talk about, but in this case she's trying to bring this information to women so that they can protect themselves, especially killers that are like on the loose. So when a part of her investigation that she's doing for her newspaper actually helps uncover one of the killers that she's reporting on, like it actually helps them find the man responsible, she then flees to the country, because it obviously gives her like a level of fame that she just doesn't want, and she knows cannot really be good for a woman. So she goes up to a country estate to go kind of like hide out there for a little bit, and on her first night there, a murder happens. It's very Agatha Christie, I suppose. But yeah, a murder happens. So now she is going to help the detective on the case. He doesn't like her. He thinks that she is quite brash, and that her reporting means that then it's possible that the wrong information comes out at the wrong time and can actually impede investigations. He himself is someone who's constantly having his superiors breathing down his neck because of the way that he goes about investigations, where he wants to do it thoroughly and accurately. He cares about the case being done correctly as opposed to quickly, which is what his superiors want. Because of her reporting, he's had even more pressure put on him to end cases quickly, because obviously it looks really bad in this time period where a woman reporter does a better job than the police did. So now we have it where these two are going to work together, because he knows that she's a witness, so he wants to protect her, and she's decided that she's along for the ride and she's going to help him discover who the actual killer is. And then while they're working together, they kind of seem to find each other a lot more competent than they initially thought. So that is where we're at the minute. We are essentially just following them interacting with each other also while they're investigating. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing. It's not one that I'm feeling like hugely drawn to. It's not giving me that this is compulsively readable and addictive feeling that I get from other Regencies like Tessa Dare, where I read them in a night and I can't help myself. That's not happening with this one. So I'm enjoying it, but it's definitely not going to be new favorite territory. It's not one, I don't think, where I'm going to be like, oh, I'm desperate to read the next book, but I am having a good time while I'm reading it. So you win some, you lose some, I suppose. So I'm going to go back to reading that now. And then once I have read maybe another 100 or so pages, I'll do another check-in and see how my thoughts are progressing. Hey, look, I'm here to check in because I have made a little bit of progress with the Ladies' Guide to Mischief and Mayhem. I am nearing the end now. I'm about 200 plus pages in. This is 300 and something pages, so I haven't got long to go. I'm still liking this. I'm still enjoying the book. I don't feel hugely strongly about it is the main problem. I just wish I cared more about this book. Like, I'm enjoying it enough. Like, it's cute, it's cozy, it's a decent time. I have no complaints about it. It's just okay. And I think the thing is that with the Regencies that I have read, with the Regency romances that I've gotten obsessed with, it's that, right? I have literally gotten obsessed with them. I don't want to put them down. I read them in like a day. So I think my problem here is that I wish I had that. I am comparing this to the other ones that have been really addictive. And it's not addictive. It's fun and it's cute, but it's not addictive. It's got the mystery element going to it as well, which is interesting. And I've got my predictions for that as well. I don't know how accurate it's going to be or how predictable this book is going to be, but I just don't feel very strongly about it. I'm having a good time. I'm probably never going to think about this again. I'm definitely not fussed about paying money to read the sequels. So at the moment it's going fine, which is not what I wanted. So I'm going to go see if I can finish this off, and then I'll hop back in and let you know how I felt with the ending. All right, vlog. So it's been a little bit. I have no idea how long it's been. I hope they do this morning. Anyway, and it just gotten ready. I finished A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, and it's fine. It didn't win me over in the end. It wasn't like, oh, now I need the sequel. It was fun. Like, I enjoyed it. It's not one that I am here to say, don't read this. It was a terrible time. I had a fun time. I enjoyed it. If you like the cozy murder mystery style as well, that would work in your favor as well. It's a romance, historical murder mystery. It's got all three going in there. It's quite well done. It's just not what I'm looking for. It's not that I think there's anything inherently wrong with this book. It's just not what I look for in a Regency romance, and that's fine. Nothing really to elaborate on much more for this one. It's just not one that I think was worth my time. I know that sounds really mean. I got to the end and it's like, oh, I really needn't have read it. Like, it's not one that I regret reading. It's just that when I got to the end, there was no satisfaction there to the point where I was glad that I had spent my time doing this, is more the thing. So I won't be continuing on with the series, but I think that it's well written. I have nothing against the book. I think the author did a good job. I think that it's a good book. It's just not a me book. And those are not the same thing. I can see hundreds of books out there that I can understand would be a really good book. I'm just not the right person for it. This is one of those. So it's not one that I can necessarily say negatively, like, don't read this. I definitely think if it sounds appealing to you, and if you're a murder mystery person especially, I would highly recommend you go check this out. I'm just not. I'm not really into murder mysteries, especially cozy mysteries. They're just not my thing. So that taking such a precedence here also, I think, added to my lack of interest in the book. So overall, like, the romantic lead was decent. Like, I enjoyed him. I really liked how competent our main character is as well. I liked the way that they begun to understand each other and all of that development. I think it was good. That's the thing. I don't genuinely have a critique of this book other than that it didn't wow me and I will never think about it again. So it's an odd one to discuss because, again, it's not that I would deter you from reading it. I think the other thing that did bother me a little bit about this book, however, though, is the way that it's presented on the Goodreads page. I didn't look at this. I picked it up because it was on a list and I had heard good things on, I think, Reddit was where I'd heard people say that it was good. In con when I was looking up for like fans of Tessa Dare books, that's why I picked this one up. So I hadn't actually read the Goodreads page, but this one, there's a couple of things on here that then has given me pause to be like, okay, these are things that I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to how this book is presented. The first one is that it says at the start, perfect for readers of Evie Dunmore, Julia Quinn, and Tessa Dare. I've not read Julia Quinn. I love watching Bridgerton. I've not actually read Julia Quinn, but I agree with the Evie Dunmore thing. Again, I like Evie Dunmore more than I like these, but I agree. I agree that if you're a fan of Evie Dunmore, you might like Amanda Collins. I categorically disagree that if you like Tessa Dare, you'll like Amanda Collins. Not that you will dislike it. I just don't think that they correlate. It's not, if you like this, you'll like this. It's, you could like it. Of course you could. But I went into this book looking for Tessa Dare, looking for something along the lines of Tessa Dare, and I did not get that. So I disagree. I don't think that the writing style is anywhere near as addictive as Tessa Dare. I think that you need that compulsive, I can't wait to keep reading female gazeness that you get from Tessa Dare that I just didn't get quite as much as from Amanda Collins. And obviously also we're talking about different time periods. Evie Dunmore makes sense because we are talking about Victorians also with Evie Dunmore. And in the case of the Evie Dunmore ones, it's an emphasis on education. In the case of the Amanda Collins ones, they are emphasis on, in this case, an investigation. So I disagree. I disagree that it's for fans of Tessa Dare because I'm a fan of Tessa, and not even because I'm a fan and I'm not a fan of this, so it can't be. That I think we're comparing apples and oranges. I just don't think that it's necessarily the case. And the other thing as well is that I realised that it says England 1865, which I hadn't really processed when I was first reading the book. Like, the year comes up, I think, at the beginning of the book and never thought about it again. And again, I didn't know the synopsis of this one. So by the time we got to the end of the synopsis, I knew that we're talking mid to late Victorian era, but I wasn't thinking of exactly when it is. So it's only when I looked again that it says England 1865. This is too early for a female reporter. The first ever known female reporter, I believe, began reporting in, I think she started in the 1880s, got properly printed and recognized in the 1890s. And she was persecuted for this, I will point out. And it definitely was not about murder, which would have been seen as unseemly. So we're going with historical inaccuracies from the get-go. I also previously mentioned, obviously in the Victorian era, we did have women that were starting to go to university, for example. That wasn't happening until I think the earliest a woman was ever accepted at either Cambridge or Oxford. I think it was Cambridge first. I could be wrong. And I'm fairly certain that was in 1869. So we have not had a woman go to university, and we have not had a female reporter that's been recognized as a reporter, let alone to have this level of acclaim that we're talking about within this book. I could once again do an entire rant about this, and I probably will. The problem that I have with when we push these things forward, and I understand, you want your woman to have more agency, but you like the setting, and I understand. My problem with that is that a lot of the time, people are genuinely shocked by how recent events are. The amount of men that you can tell in America that women could not get their own bank account, they could be refused a bank account until 1975, my mum's lifetime, and the amount of people that don't know this, the amount of people that are shocked by this information. And that happens a lot. And books like this don't help. The idea that women could only attend lectures, they couldn't actually get a degree until the Edwardian era. They could attend lectures, from, as I said, I'm fairly certain the first woman admitted into a university lecture was in 1869. So it's important that we adhere to those dates, not because I think fiction should always only tell the truth, but when it comes to dates like that, women's history is important, and showing people how recent these things are. Bear in mind that Oxford University, I don't even think there's a century difference between the formation of Oxford University and England as a country, like as a recognized country, 1066. That's how long Oxford University has been around. But the first woman that was admitted as a woman, and not to get a degree, just allowed to attend a lecture, was in 1869. No, that's Cambridge. Later, 1870 something. Those dates are important. It's not because I think that our female protagonists should have the same mistreatment that real women had in history, but because people sometimes believe to be informed by these books. People read these books and they think, oh, women could become a prolific reporter in 1865? No, they couldn't. It is important that we listen to this, not because I want to yuck someone's yum, not because I want to ruin someone's ideals, not because I think that women shouldn't have had those positions, but because it is important that we show when those things could occur. I don't appreciate books that do that. No critique to the author or people that do. I understand wanting to romanticize history. It's just something that bothers me personally. That being said, we're going to move on to the next book. We did a spinner wheel again, last two options being The Rose, which is Secrets of a Summer Night by Lisa Kleypas, and then we have The Two Men, which is A Tale of Two Dukes by Emma Orchard. And we got The Rose, which means that we've got Secrets of a Summer Night, and this one is the one that I think I'm going to like the most. This is the one that I've most heard compared to Tessa Dare. This is the one that over on, especially on Reddit, where people were talking about Tessa Dare, this is the one that kind of gets compared as being just as addictive. So I'm very excited for these. This is the first book in the Wallflowers series. I think there's 4 books in total. Yes, it's the first book in the Wallflower series. In this story, we're following a group of young women who are wallflowers, who are like in a corner of the ballroom, and they're all feeling a bit sorry for themselves. So they make a pact that they're going to help each other find respectable husbands. We're going to start out with Annabelle, who could definitely have her pick of suitors. She is beautiful, she is graceful, she is everything you'd want in a wife, but she has no dowry. Her family are in decline and in debt, and the only way that she can save them is if she marries well. But obviously she has no dowry. So now she has garnered the interest of a man named Simon, who wants her as his mistress. However, she don't want to be a mistress, she wants to marry, but she's also very attracted to him. So I think it's a kind of like cat and mouse thing going on. There's like a bit of rivalry, tension going on there. I'm hoping that this is just as addictive. I am hoping that it's just as steamy and that I'm going to have a great time with it. I really, really need this one to be really addictive. So hopefully it will do just that for me. So that being said, we're going to go start this one off, see how I fare with it. And once I am a little ways in, we'll chat about it. I just went on a really long rant and I'm going to get rid of it. But I have gotten halfway into Secrets of a Summer Night. It isn't a Regency, it's a Victorian. In my rant, I did say that I am going to let this one slide because its essence is very similar to a Regency. It's not like the other one, not like the Amanda Collins one, not like Evie Dunmore one, which also annoyed me when it got put on a Regency list. It has a similar essence to the Regency romances. It's a lot about, you know, the way that women are trying really hard to find the tiny scraps of agency that they can, the tiny scraps of autonomy that they can in this time period through who they marry. Basically, it fits the essence a lot more, with the added bonus, I suppose, of this one being a Victorian is that you do have discussions around the fact that you have made men. You have men who are from lower, not even lower classes, normally middle class. We've had a Tessa Dow one where he was from lower classes, and I mean, you know, a guy can dream, I guess, but he's middle class, so it's a little bit more like capable of climbing the ranks, I suppose. And he's middle class and his father's a butcher, and I love that we finally had middle class butcher representation. I know it sounds so stupid, but the amount of times I have seen butchers depicted as being lower class just because it is more physical type of labor, but meat was the luxury. So most butchers would have been the lower end of middle class. They wouldn't have been considered working class. Just random fact going on there. There was a book that I read recently. I can't remember what vlog it was for, but there was I think it might have been my Lightfall vlog that I read that had the butcher as being the richest guy in a village. And it was interesting because it's a village. So he would have probably had one of the least stable jobs because everyone would have been a bit poorer because it's a little village. Anyway, that's a completely random tangent. But yeah, I like that we've got a butcher who's middle class. That was cool. There seems to be a lot of interest in the Victorian society. I'm fairly certain a couple of parts of this were just because of the fashion that she wanted it to be Victorian. Yes, of course, because we've got the up and coming man, and also because of the type of industries he's in. I haven't specifically found out what, but I think he's somewhere in factories, you know, the typical like how people rose up through the ranks in the Victorian era. It might be a little bit early for that, but yeah, like the rise of factories means that some people suddenly elevated their status, became very rich. A lot of them were becoming richer than the aristocracy who are in decline, which is the case for our male lead. There's a lot to do with just the socio-economics of the time period, which is also why, for example, our protagonist has no dowry. It's explained away through the decline in the aristocracy, which I think is a really interesting way of handling it. And then on top of that, we do have it where our protagonist needs to wear a corset, and it therefore talks about how much worse the fashion restrictions were for women in the Victorian era because of the type of corsetry, the layers of clothing that we don't have during the Regency era. So I think that this was a choice more to do with the aesthetics and then the socio-economics of the time period, as opposed to the girl bossing thing that you normally get with Victorian romances, which I struggle with, I'm not gonna lie. I don't oppose to this one being on a Regency list as much as I do a lot of the other Victorian romances that I've read. So I'm hoping that I'll have a good time with the second half of this because the writing style is very addictive. I can completely see how people are saying, if you're a fan of Tessa Dare, read Lisa Kleypas, because yes, there's a similar level of addictiveness, and that romantic tension that we've got going is going really well. I really like the male lead as well. So yeah, this one is working better for me than the Amanda Collins one was. So hopefully I will continue to like it. But I mean, man, do a Regency vlog, get 2 Victorians. Fucking hell. It's only my luck, isn't it, really? But yeah, I am enjoying this anyway. And as I said, this one gets a pass. I understand why this one's on a Regency list. And not just because like people confuse dates, because dates are hard. I get it with this one. So I'm going to go continue reading that, and then I'll hop back in once I'm done with it. But at least this one's an improvement. Hey vlog, checking in because I am now halfway into A Tale of Two Dukes. So I thought I would check in because this is quite an intense one. So I've got quite a bit to say. Now, I don't want to spoil this book, so I am going to try and go over this as gently as possible. In this story, we do have a second chance romance, which I wasn't expecting necessarily. We have it where our protagonist was married off really young. She was 17 when she was married off to a much older duke. And obviously he was a duke. So it was, you know, she didn't think about it twice. It was what was expected of her. A duke asked her for her hand in marriage, even though she's from a much lower tier, just because she is kind of renowned for her fertility. So then when she is married off to this duke, he then has his cousin come over, his cousin who looks a lot like him, and he basically neglects his wife so that then she will feel so lonely she might seek company elsewhere. Now, I'm not going to go into the full spoilers of it, but you get the gist. It's so that he can have an heir because he hates the person that will inherit should he not have a son. I think there are so many other ways that this could have happened and so many other conversations that could have been had. It's not romanticized, it is shown as being something that is horrific, but even still, it's difficult. It's difficult to read. The romance between the two young people is good, and the modern timeline, at the moment, we don't really know what their animosity towards each other is due to. We haven't gotten to the point where that's explained, like why they hate each other, because obviously we know why they should hate her husband, but why they hate each other is yet to be explained. At the minute, this is proving interesting because it does have an interesting conversation that you wouldn't necessarily always have in these kinds of romances. And it is something that has been kind of known throughout history to happen. So it's not like it's completely out of the blue and completely fabricated. But yeah, an odd one, I guess, to sort of read on page, especially in a romance context. So I have mixed feelings on it, but not in a bad way. It's just one that I think if you're going into a romance for it to be a light romance, something this heavy really should come with some kind of pretext, especially because the cover just looks like your generic Regency romance, right? And I know that Regency romances do have things a lot of the time to do with the way that men abused the system against these women, and they do tend to have some kind of horrible story to say about men of this time period. I'm not saying that Regency romances tend to be all cutesy, but I think when you're seeing this on page the way that you are, you're seeing the way that her neglect is wearing on her, the unhappiness, the way that she's almost gaslighting herself that she should be happy because of who she married and the wealth and the prestige that it has earned her. I have mixed feelings on how to go about discussing this one, because I am enjoying the story, I'm enjoying the romance, but obviously we do also have these heavy topics and I wasn't forewarned on them. So I think that even though some of you might consider this a spoiler, I think it's an important thing to mention, just on the basis that it can alter the way that you are going to appreciate a story. This one I am appreciating because of the conversation and the themes, not just because it's a cute romance. So that balance is necessary, I think, and that conversation is necessary. And you can't have that conversation while you're crying spoilers because of these things that happen in it. Apologies if you are someone that wanted to go into this completely blind, but it is one that I think you should know this going in, because romances are supposed to be fun and uplifting most of the time when we're dealing with heavier topics. I think if you're going into it with the mindset of oh, this will be fun while I'm dealing with mental health problems, it might not be ideal. So I would say go in with the right expectations. But I'm going to go read the second half now. It shouldn't take me very long. And then after lunch, I'll hopefully come back in and we'll have wrapped this up. All right, vlog. I am done with A Tale of Two Dukes. I liked this one. I do think it was a good book. It's not one that I would cry from the rooftops about. It's not one that I would say, oh my god, everyone go read this. It's not revolutionary. It's not changed anything within the genre. As I said, we do have some interesting conversations regarding the mistreatment of women in here in a way that we don't normally see within the genre, especially because it's a different kind of abuse, a different kind of systemic abuse that we're looking at, that I think was handled interestingly, I suppose. I liked our male lead enough. I did have problems with him. I have a lot of problems all the time with Regency men, but this guy definitely gave a few of the ones I dislike a run for their money when it comes to some of the problematic things that he did. And the way that she rationalizes it and justifies it just because she loves him is not great either. So I had a good time with this book, but I have problems with it. And it's definitely one that I think you should, if you're curious about those problems, just to see if it's something you'd be interested in or not, I'm happy to DM you spoilers. I liked it. I did like the way it was told. I did find it compulsively readable. I did like some of the conversations that were had. I love the interactions that we have between our male lead and our protagonist's sons. Emphasis on trying to rebuild trust was interestingly handled, I would say. I had issues with it. I liked it, but I had issues. So do with that what you will. That does conclude this vlog. I've given that one a 3.5. So that means that from the 3 books, we've got The Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, which just scraped a 3-star on Corepile. It feels more like a 2.5. I can't remember what I gave it on Goodreads, if I gave it a 2 or a 3. I read Secrets of a Summer Night, which I had a great time with. That one got 4 stars. It's my favourite of the vlog. It was definitely the one that fit what I was wanting the most out of this vlog. That steamy, fun, easy to get through time, that Bridgerton, Tessa Dare-esque spirit to it that I really wanted out of this. And then we have this last one, Tale of Two Dukes, which I ended up giving 3 stars. I am glad that I read these because it did really put into perspective what I'm looking for in my Regency romances. And basically, I'm either just looking for something that is Austen-esque, I'm looking for something that is gentle and is about romance where men come to understand their feelings and understand understand the ladies that they are interested in, or I'm looking for something like Tessa Dare where it's just fun and steamy. What I'm not looking for is something that gets a little bit too topical to the point where on page we're seeing those depictions, because that takes away from it being a fun romance for me, and that's something that I'd rather read in like a literary fiction where it's dealt with more intentionally. Hence my issues with A Tale of Two Dukes. And I'm definitely not looking for us to rewrite history just so we can garboss our way through history like we got with the Amanda Collins one. Ranking it, we've got Secrets of a Summer Night, and then a step down we've got A Tale of Two Dukes, and then a huge step down we've got the Amanda Collins one, just because it's not what I'm looking for. And again, it's not necessarily a diss towards the people who do like those books. I understand their appeal. It's just not what I'm looking for in the genre. And it does anger me when we see certain depictions of things done in a way that I find frustrating. That is it for this vlog. Let me know what your favourite Regency romances are. If you're a fan of Tessa Dare, who's another one that you'd recommend? If you are a fan of Tessa Dare and you haven't read Lisa Kleypas, I would recommend. So far, so good. Definitely comparable. What are your thoughts on all of the rants that I've had throughout this vlog regarding the way we depict Victorian versus Regency? I've done many a section here. It is one that has been causing me some anger, and I am hoping to get out a proper video where I discuss that more coherently when I'm a bit more removed from this book and it doesn't anger me so much. But yeah, let me know down below. But that is all from me for today. So thank you ever so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I will catch you in another one soon. Bye.